This thought question is in response to prompt F about Genie. And the main question I think that a lot of people have is, was she mentally retarded at birth? Or could she not learn language because she surpassed the period of critical development, the critical period of language development? First of all, you have said not to use terms like retarded, but that's what you wrote in the question, so I just copied it. I believe it's supposed to be developmentally disabled or something. I should probably learn the real term for that. I think that's what it is. But it said that's what it said. And I don't think we totally know her intellectual ability at birth, but she didn't seem to have. The linguist said that she was not mentally deficient or retarded. Neglect caused her brain to not develop the capacity for language. Neglect shrinks and malforms the brain. The connections that could be used for language basically just diminish because synaptic pruning and plasticity, you're not using it. It's going to get rid of it and make room for things you're going to use, basically. Although in the scans, it just looked kind of space there because they don't have any stimulation, really. She learned words, but she couldn't make sentences and really understand grammar. She was making really good progress really quickly, but her trauma was just too much. And between how her life was going at that point, even, she just started going backwards. But it still comes down to it being too late because she surpassed the critical period of language development. Which, again, comes to, was she exploited? Absolutely. She needed help. She was the most severe case known at the time. And because of that, people didn't really care about her. They cared about making a name for themselves and being the ones to help her. She was studied, I guess, by government-funded scientists. And the linguist that I quoted earlier actually said that they seized the opportunity she provided to address hypotheses of human language and mind. So they looked at, she said, in the most loving way possible, but they looked at her as an experiment rather than a traumatized child. Her well-being was not the priority. The priority was their research, and they treated her like a lab rat, basically, from what it seems, from the view that we get of the situation. Everyone was selfish, wanting the recognition for themselves, and they played tug-of-war over her, which ultimately ended up in her not being able to see any of them because, of course, it was going to be too much, especially for someone that damaged. And that goes into, is it ethical to conduct research on a case like Genie? I think yes, but not the way they were doing it. It should be learned and documented from because that's how we learn, that's how science advances, but not to the extent where she is made into an experiment rather than a human who needs help and treatment. She was a lab rat to them when she needed all the care. The main concern should have been her well-being, and the findings should have come later to be documented, not worried about the results more than the child they're exploiting. How could she have learned language better or improved her ability to learn? Obviously, the main thing would be not to have been neglected for 13 and a half years, but I don't think that that's the point. After being discovered, she had no one consistently in her life. She needed consistency. She needed people that she could really learn to trust. And she needed, as the one man said in the video, some sort of a family. she was just passed around and being studied. She'd never had love and attachment and things, yeah, needed for survival, and especially for overcoming such uh, deficiencies, I guess, in development and trauma, a huge amount of trauma. And she still never got that consistent, dependable person in her life. They needed to treat her like a human child, and a very damaged one at that. She needed love and consistency, and again, she was a lab rat. If she were in my care after being discovered, that's not how it would have been. I know everyone can say that, but I would like to think that I would worry more about her well-being. I would put her safety and comfort before any of the fame and hype. And even, I know that, like I said, it's adding to scientific knowledge, but that comes later. It's more important to get this human well. I would have, as I said, prioritized her safety and comfort. I would have gotten her a therapist and an educator and any other professionals that she needs. And of course, share her needs with them and doctors and anyone else who could help. But I would not have made it a public spectacle. I would have only worried about helping her and getting her to the point. Of course, there's still a very good possibility that she couldn't ever learn language or understand beyond, have a higher comprehension because of her neglect and how it affected her brain previously. But if things did go different and she did get to the point where she could kind of understand what it would mean to tell her story and comprehend it and make a decision, if she wanted to go public with it, of course I would do that. But I would respect her wishes, and I wouldn't have done it if she were at the point where she had no choice. But as I said, I would tell people that were involved, that were trustworthy, that could help. Her doctors, people who should know that people who should know that she's interacting with, or maybe someone that had a similar situation, but not advertise it to the general population and make it a fame stunt. It's a very sad story, and I hope if anything like this ever happens again, that maybe the person will have more of this type of a stance, want to help the child more than gaining the fame. And again, document the findings, but do not make that the priority.